This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
And away we go. It's middle of the week. It's Wednesday, the 24th day of May, DeSantis Day. I thank you so much for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. If I may, could I ask you to just hit pause on this briefly and give this a 5-star review if you're a Spotify user, or a 5-star review if you're a Apple Podcast listener. Even better, do you mind writing a review of this podcast? You do that by scrolling all the way down to the bottom of the menu of shows at Apple Podcasts. And then right at the bottom, you'll see where you can leave 5 stars and a written review. That helps tremendously when you write reviews, when you give it 5 stars. Better yet, of course, when you subscribe or you share this podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We got a good one for you today. I bring in a couple of the big guns who were intimately familiar and still are familiar with the operations of Team Trump, but also from a messaging point of view, the politics generally inside the GOP. So Mike Lindell, who's a great friend and sponsor of this podcast and my radio show, Mike has some, I guess, some interesting insights. He's obviously riding with Trump the whole way. I asked him about the DeSantis announcement. He has some interesting things to say there. And, of course, being a sponsor, he wants to tell you about some things that are going on at mypillow.com that I think would be interesting for you to know anyway. Also, Sean Spicer, the former White House press secretary for Donald Trump. Sean is a really sober-minded, fair guy, and so I asked him from a strictly communications point of view as DeSantis makes this announcement today. Sean has an interesting perspective on why he's chosen Twitter, how he thinks that will go over. We have a really interesting back and forth on how Trump and DeSantis message. What's the GOP's role in their victory? The business of Trump can't win or only DeSantis can win. So I have a host of strategic communications questions, and Sean does some political math. This show is really more about the math of how you get a Republican across the finish line. At least the conversation with Sean is. I talk a little bit about the politics up front and my analysis of the two men. Sean talks about it from an analytical math, electoral map strategy point of view. So if that sort of thing interests you, today is your show. And I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you downloading this. I'm also so appreciative of the sponsorship, friendship, partnership of John Ruhlman, usmedicalplan.com, because he saves you. Why this is so important to me. Yes, he keeps our lights on. He keeps the podcast running, keeps my team paid. But your support of him means a couple of things. Number one, when you call him and you ask about your health insurance, he knows you listen. That matters. So three-legged stool here. Him, you, me. But best of all, he can help you. He doesn't just help me. He can help you. And when he helps you and you do business with him, he helps me. See how it works? Yeah, you get it. But in all sincerity, it's not just about me or the show. This is about saving you big-time money on health insurance, and I'm talking about appreciable money. Do you buy your own health insurance? For Pete's sakes, give John Ruhlman 2 minutes, his team, 2 minutes of your time. Go to usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or call today and say, hey, I heard Stigall talking about your access to private insurance avenues that maybe I don't know. Here's what I pay currently out of pocket. I buy my own family's health insurance, or I buy my own small business employees' health insurance, or I'm a senior, I'm on a fixed income, I buy a supplemental plan. Here's what I pay a month. And what you may find is John and his team will say, wow, you're paying way too much. We can do better than that. And in many cases, get you even better coverage at less rate. You're never going to get substandard care or less insurance. But what you can possibly save is several hundred up to thousands of dollars a month with one couple-minute phone call. And they handle all the bureaucratic nonsense, the paperwork. I know. I don't want to do anything about that either. I hate that. Like being on the phone and chasing your tail and filling out forms. And no, that's exactly why he has a full-blown care department dedicated to walking you through every bit of this, so it's not eating up your day to change your health insurance. But it's so important you save money right now. Everybody wants to. 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Investigate it. Watch the video My conversation with John is at chrisstigall.com. It's the day everybody who wants to move beyond Trump has been waiting for. Here it is. Ron DeSantis finally. I'm so happy this day is here so we can stop pretending it may or may not happen. Ron DeSantis scheduled to make an announcement tonight. He's running for president of the United States. A little teaser video was released last night by Casey DeSantis, the First Lady of Florida. You don't hear anything but a narrator, Ron DeSantis, walking through a curtain, silhouetted, standing in front of a giant American flag as if he's about to take the stage to a roaring crowd. This is how that sounded, if you didn't see it.
They call it faith because in the face of darkness, you can see that brighter future. A faith that our best days lay ahead of us. But is it worth the fight? Do I have the courage? Is it worth the sacrifice? America has been worth it every single time.
And then you could text the keyword launch to a number. So that was the Casey DeSantis post last night on Twitter. A couple of interesting things about this. You've probably heard by now, of course, that the Florida governor is going to speak Wednesday on Twitter Spaces with Elon. Elon Musk said he would interview Ron DeSantis Wednesday, promising a major announcement. DeSantis expected to announce on the 2024 presidential bid Wednesday evening via Twitter. Now, why Twitter? Some of you may wonder why. You answered that, Fast Eddie. Why Twitter? Why is he choosing this venue to do this?
I mean, I remember Elon Musk saying that if Ron DeSantis ran for president, he would support him. That was last year. So I think that this is the way forward.
What's the upside for Ron DeSantis? Like, why this venue? I mean, yes, that's true. Elon Musk did say he would support Ron DeSantis. But why would Ron DeSantis choose this venue to do it, do you think?
Well, I guess he can't be shut out in the way that Rachel Maddow shut out Trump on that day. So, like, none of the news networks can shut him out.
Yep. Interesting tweet from a former chief of staff. This is somebody on Twitter that identifies themselves as a former chief of staff on the Hill, that said after the Glenn Youngkin victory, Glenn Youngkin's communications team made trips to the Hill to help fellow Republicans on how to communicate going forward. He said his comms people went around giving a talk and said that they held precisely one press conference at the launch of their campaign. Virtually all of the questions were about Trump, nothing about Virginia, nothing about policy, nothing about contrasting him with his opponent. And so as a result, they never held another press conference for the entire campaign, and they won. If you're a Republican candidate, it makes absolutely no sense to try to communicate with the voters through the traditional media. Now, are we traditional media?
No.
We're not.
We're not.
I would submit to you that there are people who might think we are.
Okay.
I don't know that's true, but I suspect that could be true. And what is the one thing that, as that tweet just said, that I suspect the DeSantis people would like very much to not have to talk about if they don't have to? Donald Trump is the answer. Yeah. They don't want to talk about Trump. Coming on a show like this one, for instance, do you anticipate or think that the communications people with DeSantis would expect to talk a lot about Trump to podcast and talk radio hosts?
Yeah, it's a yes. I would expect that.
So Fast Eddie, what I'm telling you is don't get wound up and upset as you try to secure interviews with Team DeSantis and they're not bending over backwards to accommodate shows like this one. That's all I'm telling you. Just get it in your head right now. And that's not a criticism per se. I don't like it as a personal matter, as a matter for you and this audience. And by the way, we will certainly extend the invitation and we will certainly communicate to the DeSantis people. It is not our desire to make our conversations about Donald Trump. But to promise wholesale that Donald Trump won't come up in an interview would be dishonest. I can't say that I wouldn't do that. Now, DeSantis, I get it. He doesn't want to talk about Trump. Now, look, I got to be careful here. I'm not suggesting that this is in the same vein of avoidance that we found during, say, the most famous year was the 2012 year, the Mitt Romney year. Mitt Romney would not make himself available to talk radio audiences. Wouldn't do it. I can tell you now, knowing all that I know now, there is no question in my mind why that was. Mitt Romney did not want to take tough questions from real conservatives. I don't think that's this. I'm not suggesting Ron DeSantis is not a real conservative and can't take tough questions. I don't think that's that at all. But I do think that they have concluded, and I think they're probably not wrong, they can actually control communications far easier if they don't put him in situations where he has to spend a lot of time answering questions about Donald Trump. And I think that probably will largely include a lot of us that do talk radio shows and podcasts. That would be my guess. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong because I think the only way Ron DeSantis actually chisels away potential soft Trump support is to stare that issue right in the face. Maybe even seed things and say things like, Donald Trump did great things. Donald Trump helped me a lot. Maybe even figure out a way to thread a needle, speak in a laudatory way about Donald Trump, and then craft a message that says, but here's why I think I'm better for the job now. If there's a way to do it, and it's tough because you don't want to needlessly keep poking Trump people in the chest. They're already irritable. Many of them already think you're a traitor for running, which I think is ridiculous, by the way. Anybody can run for president that wants to run for president. I don't think there's any loyalty test to Donald Trump to run for president. If Ron DeSantis wants to run, he can run. But I also know that a lot of people are out there saying, well, if it weren't for Trump, there wouldn't even be a Ron DeSantis. Okay, maybe there's a way to stipulate that. Maybe there's a way to defer on that and still say, but I've got some thoughts about tomorrow. I learned a lot from him. You know, he took a lot of bullets for a long time, and I really appreciate that. And he has shown us a new way forward about how to communicate in this new century of Republican politics. I don't know. And maybe that's a pipe dream. Maybe none of that works, and Trumpists will always be Trumpists, and there's no moving Trumpists off Trump. And if that's true, if the polls are correct, Trump has a, universe is light years ahead of DeSantis in polling. It's not even close. Do you think, let me ask you this. Do you think now, he announces today, is DeSantis going to pull close and close this gap with Donald Trump, Fast Eddie? Can he get it done? Now that today's the day he finally says, I'm in, and he's going to start messaging. But if this game plan is right, they want to try to control talking about him as much as possible, meaning not at all if possible. Can they run and not talk about him? Can they avoid Donald Trump?
I do think that they can. Yes, I think that they can close the gap. If not win, definitely close the gap.
And avoid talking about him.
Yes. I'll tell you why.
I'd love to hear.
If the media has identified Ron DeSantis as a serious threat to the Democrats, then they will spend all their time attacking him and breaking him down. So that might take some of the heat that Trump would be putting on him off of him.
Do you think the media fears a second term of Donald Trump or the first term of Ron DeSantis more? Which do they fear more?
I think that they fear a first-term Ron DeSantis more.
You do?
I do.
Okay. As such, then, well, I'll ask you that. They fear a first term of Ron DeSantis more. That means you think that they believe he is well, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean you think that Ron DeSantis is the more plausible victor over Joe Biden, though. You're not saying that. You're saying they fear DeSantis more, but you don't necessarily think Ron DeSantis could be more victorious over Biden than Trump. You're not saying that, or you are saying that?
No, you're absolutely correct. Because I think that the media believes that Donald Trump is beatable, that they can beat him. I think they're even being a bit cocky about it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Because Ron DeSantis, the media this week has basically declared that Florida is a giant Klan rally. And if you don't sleep with the opposite sex and you're not white, Florida will terminate your life if you enter the state. Is the new, I mean, it's like it actually makes the criticism of Trump sort of look weak by comparison. If you really listen to what they're saying about Ron DeSantis, it's outrageous, actually. Don't say gay, trans aren't welcome, black people travel advisory, people of color shouldn't. I mean, they really are making Ron DeSantis' Florida sound like a Klan rally. And for all that Trump's been hit with, it's generally womanizer, liar, con man. He doesn't get hit. It's kind of hard to hit Trump with race. Now, they tried it, but it doesn't stick. People just kind of know it's Donald Trump and his wife, Melania, come from the world of fashion and entertainment and finance. Like, he's around nothing but minorities perpetually. I mean, it just doesn't stick. People know it doesn't stick. So all they really have to hit him on is character. So that's the question. When you look at these two men, in my view, one is a character attack from the media and the left. One is I guess you could call it character, but it's more a name-calling pejorative. It's a racist, phobe, bigot, hater, Klansman, travel advisories, don't go there. He hates gays, he hates trans, he hates blacks. They're making Ron DeSantis out to be the hater candidate, whereas Trump's always been sort of the liar, the compromised character, the womanizer. Both black hats, both bad, but I guess I wonder which one do you think the media has a more effective line of attack on right now? Which one sticks? Which one lands? Because if you're looking for that vaunted independent voter out there, conventional wisdom is everybody knows who Trump is. Everybody knows who he is. Nobody doesn't have an opinion on Donald Trump. Conventional wisdom also is there's lots of people that don't really know Ron DeSantis yet, and they could learn about Ron DeSantis. Is the media going to allow for that? The DeSantis people clearly can conclude no. The media is not. The media is actively interested in trying to frame Ron DeSantis now to people that don't know him well. And believe it or not, there are millions of Americans that really don't know much about him. As much as you and I follow this stuff and talk about it, millions of people are just going to start hearing about this guy in a meaningful way for the first time, starting today when he announces his candidacy. And so the media is going to start telling those people that he's a Klansman. And so my question is, if you're dealing with a public, and I've got another poll here in front of me today, as Joe Biden embarks on his re-election campaign, just 33% of American adults say they approve of his handling of the economy. 24% say national economic conditions are in good shape. Who's the quarter of us that think things are in good shape? This is a new Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. Let me see the sampling on this. 1,680 adults. Okay, adults. Now that's really bad. Remember why? When you poll adults, these are all knuckle-dragging mouth breathers, whether they vote or not. Hey, you, sir, stranger, may I get your opinion on Joe Biden? Sure. Have you ever voted in your life? Nope. You intend to vote? Nope. Well, do you like Joe Biden? I do not. And the economy sucks. The reason it's important that that guy is saying that is because he's not paying attention, he's not participating, and he's ticked. So that says to me, people that are paying close attention, likely voters, actually dislike Biden even more. the really informed voter. But that doesn't necessarily mean they've made a decision to warm to one of the Republican candidates. And so the thinking goes, they already hate Trump's guts, maybe even more than they hate Biden. So when these people are introduced to, although likely voters probably know a little more about DeSantis. So let's say you're somebody who is unhappy with Biden. You want to make a change. Is it you go with the guy you know you don't like well, but you know kind of his political policies, or you go with a new guy you're told's a racist and a bigot and a homophobe and all of these things, but has demonstrably run Florida well? I guess if I can't, it's hard for me to get into the mind of somebody who's on the bubble with this stuff. But if you're somebody that's moved off Biden or could be convinced to vote for a Republican, I guess the thinking goes, if you hate Trump, you'll never warm to Trump again, but you could warm to DeSantis, even though they're calling him a racist and a transphobe and the Klan rally in Florida.
I think that's correct, Chris, because they're already they're building their visual cuts and audio cuts. Like, they're building their file on Ron DeSantis right now. So this NAACP thing, they can point back to and just like, remember, the NAACP said it was very dangerous back in May to travel to Florida. Like, these are the kind of things they're building his file on for the next year.
I don't know this answer. How do the Ron DeSantis people appeal to the Trumpists? I don't know this answer because I know who you Trump people are, and I know how you feel about Trump. I'm not saying none of them can be peeled off, but at this hour, I would say a lot of them can't. I also know that there's a fair number of people, I don't know how many, I can't quantify it, but there's a lot of people that are so excited about DeSantis. They've been waiting for this moment. I saw more than a few people, that video that we just played, more than a few people said, gosh, it is so exciting to sound forward-moving and optimistic and excited about tomorrow. And this is the message we need now with this stupid, withering, destructive husk in the White House and all the consternation surrounding Trump. Oh, what a breath of fresh air it is to hear this optimistic new way forward. America's better days are ahead. Whew, boy, we were waiting for this. Okay, those people, if DeSantis is not successful, will they see their way to Trump? I don't know at this hour. A lot can happen in a year. Moods change. People galvanize and coalesce around candidates, even if they say at this hour, never. But I am going to be the most fascinating story in politics for me is going to see how Ron DeSantis makes inroads to the Trump people. And as I've said to you before, running around saying, Donald Trump can't win is not a strategy. You can keep screaming that, and you can believe that in the pit of your soul that Donald Trump can't win, but that is not going to convince Donald Trump voters of anything. It's just going to make them mad. They don't like hearing Donald Trump can't win. Don't tell them that. It doesn't work. So what does DeSantis say to make Trump people think twice about him instead of Trump?
I think he has to play it exactly as how you laid it out in the beginning, Chris. I think that he can't go on the attack because that's never worked for any candidate going against Trump. So
even when attacked, he's got to resist it, you think?
I do, yeah.
Because you think he's got the resume that can back up what he's done. He's got a resume of accomplishment that stands alone. He doesn't need to. It's not like he's different than Marco Rubio. He's different than Ted Cruz. Jeb was Jeb. I mean, the Bush name, that was kind of tarnished. So that's not analogous either. He's not Jeb, although some people are trying to make that comparison. Trumpists are trying to suggest he's just another Jeb. He's not. I think that's absurd. He's not a Bush family dynasty. He's not a United States senator in an empty suit. He's an accomplished governor. He has a resume, a real resume. So positive, forward-looking, talking about his resume, not taking the bait on fighting with Trump even when Trump lobs stuff at him.
Yeah, because he can also let PACs do the talking through ads. So he doesn't have to say that he didn't force the jab on his citizens, But his PACs, or the PACs that are supporting him, I should say, could put an ad out there of Donald Trump talking about the jab and the, Operation Warp Speed and the lockdowns, things that Trump did where he, Ron doesn't have to be the one saying that on the campaign trail.
I am sure that there are more than a few people that would disagree with this. I tend to think that DeSantis could even lean into a bit of a complimentary tone and deferential tone to Trump while running for office. I don't know if that's achievable, and every political consultant in the world might call me the dumbest guy alive for just saying that right now. But I'm not so sure DeSantis can't say, hey, stipulated, the guy was great. He did a lot. I learned a lot from him. He took the slings and arrows. He's been persecuted. It's wrong. It's all wrong. And I've learned a lot from this guy and what he's gone through, and I'm going to take it all and I'm going to apply it. He doesn't maybe say it just like that, but in my head, that's what I'm thinking. Rather than make it about him, defer to him and say, I can't deny what he accomplished. I can't deny that he helped me. I can't deny that he's been unfairly persecuted. All those things are true. But what comes after the but? How do you convince a Trump voter? And all that stuff's true, but I need you to ride with me now. I don't know if he does. I don't know. I'm not claiming I know how to make that pivot message. I don't know what comes after the but. But I'm kind of wondering if that's a better strategy than just running around screaming, Trump can't win! You're not going to win over a single Trumpist by just shouting at them he's damaged goods and can't win the election.
No, but you can say we have to ensure that his home is never raided again. We have to ensure that these false impeachments and the things that have happened to Donald Trump never happen to a political opponent of the left again. And I can ensure that.
I have absolutely no idea how this is going to go. I'm actually, if I could be honest with you, Obama says what keeps him up at night is the fact that not everybody is saying the same thing at once, and that he doesn't control media and the messaging at all times. This is the first time in a very long time something has kept me up at night, and this particular primary battle keeps me up at night. It bothers me a lot. I don't like it at all. I haven't liked it from the beginning. I don't like the way either groups sound in talking about the other campaign. I just don't, because I really have a fondness in my heart for both of these guys. And the tribalism is natural. It's what happens in a primary. I mean, we'll weather it. I hope. But I really do. I'll just say I'm not confident, and this is not a how do I say this? I don't mean to insult or tick anybody off here. If DeSantis is successful, I do worry that there's a huge swath of voters, Trump voters, that just won't participate. They'll pout. I think Trump voters are full of a lot of pouters, if I could be completely honest with you. So it's like, I don't mind Ron DeSantis being successful, but I worry if he's ultimately victorious, that a huge chunk of this party will just sit out and pout. Or people that never voted before but are enthusiastic to vote for Trump just won't. And I'm not saying that's a reason Ron DeSantis shouldn't run, and I'm not saying that's a reason not to vote for Ron DeSantis. I'm just saying I worry a huge swath of Trump voters won't support DeSantis. Ever. And they'll pout if he's successful. And so then you say, well, then that's on him to go out and get some Democrats and independents. Yep, true. Can he do that? That's the next question. So how can Ron DeSantis make up the numbers of the Trumpists who will sit it out and pout if he's successful? I don't know. I mean, do we live in an era where people can come around? Do we live in an era where there's a moderate, where there's a soft Democrat? I don't know. Are women going to be more enthusiastic and excited to vote for Ron DeSantis than they are? That's one of the myths. I said myths. Myths. Yes. One of the myths I think about Donald Trump's candidacy is women hate him. Women hate him. And Ron DeSantis? That women would come around? I'm not saying it's a myth that Republicans are having a hard time, but I'm saying Republicans are, not just Trump. I don't know why people think Ron DeSantis is going to be more palatable to women. They're going to say the exact same thing about him. They're going to make the case that he's every bit the pro-life guy who wants to make a federal ban on abortion as Trump. Like this abortion issue is a huge one that DeSantis is not going to be able to run away from. And if you think women are going to go, oh, well, he's not Trump, you're kidding yourself. So I'm very curious to see how the DeSantis people navigate abortion. That's going to be another huge one. So I get it. Everybody thinks the ship has sailed with women and Trump, but I am not convinced women come home to DeSantis or Tim Scott or Nikki Haley or anybody else. So for me, in my mind right now, great. I'm not unhappy about this. May the best man win. I'd be elated with either guy accepting the nomination next year, Trump or DeSantis, who are considered now the front runners. Lots can change. Lots can happen. Who knows? Vivek Ramaswamy's still out there. Tim Scott's still out there. Nikki Haley's still out there. But the odds are these are the two. It's between these two. One of them can win. I'd be thrilled either way. I'm not convinced at this hour either one of them can win women. Most of all, as you know, I'm not convinced at this hour the GOP understands how to vote harvest for either one of them. That's a bigger problem still. That's a bigger problem than he's a Klansman or he's a sexist or they're liars, or even bigger still the problem, once one of them gets the nomination, does the GOP understand that in places like Pennsylvania, they're voting by the hundreds of thousands 2 months in advance of Election Day? Does the GOP understand that? Do these campaigns understand that? I'm not convinced. Hey there, it's Chris, back on the phone with my dentist and friend Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, Pennsylvania, just off the Blue Route with new technology. You have not just new associates, but they brought new technology into the business to make it a little easier for patients.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time in dentistry. We have now introduced a three-dimensional x-ray called a CBCT scan in our office, which allows us to diagnose and things earlier for patients. My daughter is placing a lot of implants in the past had referred out. It's now being done in-house. And we also, we've been using dental or computer scanners for taking impressions for crowns for about the last 2 to 3 years. We now have introduced the next step, which is a milling machine, and we can now make crowns in the office. Things can be completed in the same day as opposed to having a temporary crown put on and 3 weeks later coming back and having a permanent crown put on. It's really a game changer, and it's a time saver for our patients to not have to make multiple visits to the office.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. He's a name synonymous with a comfortable night's sleep, that's for sure, and I can attest, and I'm so happy and thankful that he's not just a sponsor of the radio show, but also a great sponsor of our podcast, Mike Lindell, the man that brings you My Pillow and mypillow.com. Mike, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show, sir.
Well, thanks for having me on.
You have been, I say this, I know it's going to sound like I'm kissing up, and I suppose I am a little bit, but I do mean this sincerely. You're a guy that has ridden with those of us in talk radio and on cable news, those of us who are conservatives and have conservative voices, at a time when, quite frankly, a lot of other people in the private sector haven't. And so I say on behalf of all of us, thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. It's been quite a journey, and with having all the radio hosts and podcasters, they've had our back, and the people out there have had My Pillow's back, and all the employees I have, and they're very grateful to everybody out there that they kept on buying our great products.
I know you're a Christian, and I doubt you would say it the way I'm about to say it, but there had to have been just a tiny, tiny bit of schadenfreude when you heard the news a couple of weeks ago that Bed Bath & Beyond went belly up.
No, actually, to be honest with you, I felt bad for him. I felt sad for him back when all this was happening. I forgive, Jesus forgave our sins. And yes. I felt bad for their employees. I mean, I go back, I can still remember, over 2 years ago when all the CMOs and CEOs of the country canceled me one after another. And Bed Bath & Beyond specifically, I felt they were one of our best outlets, best retail stores. And we were their number one seller in history. And I just remember feeling bad for them even back then, going, you don't understand, those aren't real people. They're bots and trolls that are attacking on social media, part of this cancel culture. And it just was their just start of their demise. And part of that too, maybe it wasn't all my pillow. You had the China virus and all that came into our country. And, the retail stores were all hurt very bad during that time.
You did something smart right away. I mean, as retail was collapsing, as a market, I mean, retail has suffered anyway. Set aside the MyPillow storyline, but then abandoning you immediately reinvented yourself. I mean, you'd always been online, but you clearly went to an online-driven business model, which has served you brilliantly. Is that the new way forward for you?
Well, this actually started with the beginning of the virus. When I spoke at the Rose Garden, if you remember that, I said, we need to spend time in our Bibles. And I was attacked by media around the world then. It was about a 50-50 attack. But I knew at the start of that people were going to change. Radio went down, TV went up, and obviously there's no retail or very little. And so we had to start adjusting then. I'm constantly as the CEO adjusting our footprint, but now when we were canceled by the shopping networks, almost all the retailers, and so we've actually had to do what we've been doing it for a long time, direct sales directly to the customer, but we've had to enhance that. We had to bring that to another level and expand horizontally because we lost, $100 million a year in retail easy. And so now it's been, but it's, we've had success. We've had success in it where a lot of others didn't have success. We view every customer like our only customer, every outlet, every podcaster like our radio show, like our only radio show. And that's worked for us. So we want to make it the best you can be. And our products, launching new products, we launched the MyPillow 2.0. That was huge for us because it brought our manufacturing to another level that we used to be at, where my employees, a lot of our products we can't make here. They can't, such as our sheets. There's no weavers or spinners left in the United States. But the MyPillow 2.0, when we started that, my employees they have careers at MyPillow, and they're just so happy to be back in making the actual product, making the pillows, and so it's been quite a blessing, and our faith has gotten us through a lot of hard times.
Amen. Mike, how many people do you employ altogether?
I'm not sure. It fluctuates all the time. I think it's well over 1,000. When we have our own call center, everything we do, it's all in-house basically. We're our own call center and our own customer service. We take such pride in that.
Can I tell you something? Here's the truth. I have a great friend who works here on the show, and I sent everyone MyPillow products for Christmas who works on the show. I sent him some slippers, and he wanted a different size. He called customer service, and then he called me right after, and he said, "You've got to tell Mike the next time you talk to him, I have never had such exceptional customer service." True story. He gushed about the other side, the other end of the phone. You just don't get that anymore.
No, and we go back to a handshake is your word, and every one of my employees, and you got to realize it's very diversified. We have Hispanics, Asian, white, black. Democrats, Republicans, conservative, liberals, it doesn't matter. This whole thing over the past couple of years of canceling us, we became like a big family, and everybody takes such pride in that they're helping other people. That's one of the things we do is even making MyPillow the 2.0. They know every pillow that goes off that line is going to help someone else just like it helped them. And we do the same thing with all our products. We before someone is selling them out there, such as yourself or getting on board, we like you to try all the products so that you're a believer.
Yes.
And you can't beat that. And one of the things now I wanted just to say, everyone's been seeing our specials out there that we're closing out some of the products. And the media has spun that like, oh, Mike Lindell's they're going down and all this stuff. Well, the reason we're closing them out is because my building, I have two very big buildings, but because the MyPillow 2.0 got so big so fast this year, we've expanded our manufacturing. We hired over 100 employees in the last month where they're back. These are sewers, these are fillers, these are people working in manufacturing. So we've had to move out product, clear out products to make room. And we're passing that on to the customer, like those slippers you talk about. We have our all-season slippers. We're closing out at $25 a pair.
Wow.
And then we have the towels. We have now towels. If you go to the radio podcast page, we're closing them out at $25 for a 6-pack set.
Oh my gosh.
And also the sheets. We have the Percale sheets. They're I think the queens are like $34.99. All these products were 2 or 3 times that. And but we want to pass that on to the customer rather than renting another building and doing all this other stuff to make room. I said, you know what? Let's close these out. And because like slippers, we have 2 different. Oh, and we're closing out our sandals and slides too. Sandals for the summer at I think it's 1998 or 1999. So it's been great being able to. Everyone's going. They're looking at that. Go, how can you do this in this time with our economy getting destroyed? And you know what? God's protected our company, and I make the decisions. I'm going, you know what? This is at the time, it seems like things come up like we had this product to be able to sell out at clearance prices. And what better thing to pass it on to the customers that helped us get through these last couple of years, which were there was a lot of tough times where you're going, how are we going to get through?
Yeah, like the business alone, just the business of the pandemic by itself would be enough, and then the politics of it too. MyPillow.com, by the way, I should mention, MyPillow.com, and if you click on the radio listener square, you use my name, Chris, and that's how you can plug into all that stuff that Mike just mentioned, all those deals. Just type the name Chris, and you can get that, or you can call 800-932-5056. Mike, you're the boss. You run the place. But sincere question, and it's not from me. I just wonder, is there anybody inside ever at any point that said, hey, Mike, let's just lay low. Let's just lay low. Let's cool it. Just stay off TV. Don't talk about anything anymore politically. Just stay away. Right. Has anybody tried to talk you into that or no? Or can you be talking to that?
These were board members back in the day, and they're no longer with us.
So there's my answer.
I had but as far as the rest of the employees themselves, including, I have a lot of family working there, but we're all like a big family. But they all really have just a trust because we keep getting through with our faith, and they things that look bad on the surface end up, there's a silver lining, and it's just our confidence, and we put Jesus Christ as our chairman of the board, and we're getting through, and it's. The attacks keep coming, and at no time have I ever thought personally, I will never give up on what I'm doing out there, and I will never stop. And one of the things too is all our employees. One of the things we run my pill. They say, Mike, how do you have so much time? 500 of my employees have my direct phone number, and they will call me if there's a deviation or a block. And there's days that I'll go completely with no phone calls. That gives me a peace that everything's going great back home. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm able to go out and do this. It's a different kind of a business model where, in corporate America, you don't bother the CEO. You don't bother the CEO. Well, I want to be bothered. I want to, if there's a problem, I probably had it before, or it's got to be this macro decision, or maybe it's a micro decision that it's a deviation. And that's how we get through. Otherwise, I'd be so worried every day from morning till night about every little thing calling people up. Hey, is this okay? Is this okay? But I've got great people that work for me and that work with me. And that's a blessing.
I have, I won't drag you too much into this, but I have seen you down at Mar-a-Lago a couple of times when the president has spoken since, his relaunch for his second term, right. as well as after he was indicted in New York. I've seen you down there. Am I to read that to mean you're 100% behind him as we approach another presidential primary in the Republican Party?
Well, that goes unsaid. Yes, 100%. It was funny. I got to tell everyone that, one of the things people know him, and he's very funny. I mean, he's just got a great sense of humor. And he said to me the other day, we were talking, he goes, Mike, you're doing all this stuff for this country. He said, you're the Patrick Henry of our lifetime. He said, they're going to put a statue of you up someday. And he goes, of course they'll tear it down right away.
He's probably not wrong, right?
Yeah, he's probably not wrong. But he, I just want to tell everyone out there, I'll get a little political. It's just when I first met him in the summer of 2016, it was a common sense. It's like a CEO running who do you want running our country? You want someone that makes common sense decisions that helps all people. And that's what he's done. He's already proven that. When we got to December of 2019, it was the highest consumer confidence ever, lowest unemployment, all these great physical things going on. And that came from political decisions made by that administration and him. And he makes decisions that help all people. When you get things in power, when they're making decisions and you look at it and go, well, who does that help? Does it help people on the left or the right? And if it doesn't help anybody, there's a hidden agenda, and that's very dangerous. It's supposed to be government for the people. And I really believe God's given us grace. They always say, well, when I prayed for grace that time and said God had given us grace back at that speech at the White House back in the day, people say to me all the time, Mike, this doesn't feel like grace, our economy and all this stuff, and drugs coming across the southern border. And I say, you know what, God, it's the greatest time in history to be alive, because with everything we have right now, when we get through this is on God's timing, not on our timing. And I've had to learn patience. Believe me, if you look up patience, in the dictionary, you don't see a picture of me, but I've had to learn that. I've had to learn that.
I'll ask you in closing, if for some reason, and it sure looks, I mean, based on every poll, it doesn't look like anybody's even close to Donald Trump, but if somebody like Governor DeSantis should be successful and get the nomination, could you see fit to support him?
Well, I could say something right now, but I consider him the Trojan horse. He's done stuff that that I made he met with lawyers for people that are actually suing me, and he did bills to make it easier to sue people for defamation. So would I give him my support? I would have to say right now I won't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've learned so much about politics. Now that could change. I've said it publicly. He could help this country and endorse Donald Trump today and unite this common sense party. But that's going to be up to him. At this point, I would not. And I have very personal reasons that I can say. I don't just say these things unless I've done my due diligence or had face-to-face meetings and know things that maybe the public doesn't. So right now I'm sitting out there going, let's wait, let's play this out and see if he makes some good decisions. But so far it looks like he's going to end up running and he's so far off in the polls, and it's he's done good things down in Florida. He's also done things that the public should be aware of, and I'm just tired of this uniparty that's been running our country for a couple of decades now, where our government's got to change and be for the people, where you don't have these things weaponized against us like the FBI weaponized against. Look, they still have my phone. They still have my phone. I've sued the government and the FBI. I mean, it's going, why do you have this phone? And, why, so we've got to get to a place that, and I think it'll all get there. And I think it's too early to say, at this time, would you back this person or this person if Donald Trump's not there? I will say, if Donald Trump's not there, I think our country is, we can't come back from a lot of this. So it's very concerning for everybody, and we hope we have an election, not a selection, so to speak. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm all about, fixing our election platforms, and because that's our sacred thing. Everything, everything that can be out there, one of the most important things is to fix our election platforms and have fair elections.
Well, I tell you this, I know you value speech and free speech, and I mean this earnestly. I'll close the way I started. You have been a tremendous source of support for all of us in broadcasting, in podcasting, at a time when a lot of other people would turn their backs. You have not, and so we appreciate you riding with us. We're grateful to ride along with you. And your products, by the way, setting all that aside, your products are fantastic. I mean, people should know you put a lot of time and care and work into these products, so they're getting good stuff when they order.
Well, thank you so much, and use that promo code Chris. Get the best savings ever. Use that promo code, and we're very proud of everything we're doing there. My employees thank each and every one of you out there.
Thanks, Mike Lindell. Okay, former President Trump issued a warning from Mar-a-Lago. You may have heard it. He said, quote, "Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years." That's a direct quote from Trump. Well, central banks are reducing their U.S. dollar holdings. That's true. They're increasing their gold inventory. That's true. There are a lot of people that believe serious threats to the future value of the U.S. dollar are very real because of inflation and deficit spending and our increasing national debt. Now, listen, I don't give financial advice, and I'm not going to start now. But one thing that has withstood the test of time, famine, wars, economic upheaval, gold. And you can own it in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. You know, Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k, maybe from a previous employer, into an IRA in gold. And the best part is you don't pay a penny out of pocket. Now, if you want more information on this, if this sounds interesting to you, I hope you will investigate it and research it. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I want you to reach out to the people at Birch who do business with the show. They want to talk to you about it. You can decide with them. Just text Chris to 989898, and they're going to send you a free information kit on gold. It's free. No obligation, no charge, but you can do some more reading, and I always encourage you to do that. Text Chris to 989898. Now, in March of this year, when the banks faltered and the stock market faltered, gold surged. Well, Birch Gold can help you find out how to protect your savings with gold. Birch Gold has an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers. So investigate them. Text Chris to 989898 and get your free information kit on gold. Again, that's Chris. Just text it. Text Chris to 989898 and happy reading. No better day than to reach out to a guy who is masterful at political communications. He helped a victorious Donald Trump and the GOP in 2016. He went on to become a director of communication, or I should say the White House official messenger for a time. He's gone on to multiple media ventures. SeanSpicer.com is where you find him now. He is author of children's books. There's really nothing he doesn't do anymore. He was on Dancing with the Stars for a while, a raconteur. Sean Spicer, I welcome you in. Glad to have you on this day.
Good to be with you, Chris Stigall. Thanks for having me again.
So, listen, I have absolutely no idea how this shakes out, but one thing that just fascinates me beyond all measure is that DeSantis has chosen this venue to do this, and there's analysis out there that suggests the new way forward is to just completely go around traditional media, which I know Trump did a little of that anyway back in 2016. Is that the new path? Is that how he avoids talking about Trump, going to places like Twitter instead of, your ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times?
Yeah, well, first, Ron DeSantis is the only one with an announcement, Chris. I just want to, and I chose, instead of Twitter Spaces, I chose Chris Stigall. So I just want to let everyone know. I'll let you know. This is honest to God exclusive to your show this morning. After leaving Newsmax a few weeks ago, I'm pleased to announce this morning that I'm working with a conservative production company to launch a new show this August, and people can go to my locals page right now. It's SeanSpicer.locals.com. This is exclusive to your show, and you can join the community and find out and help us build this show, which we'll be launching in a few weeks from now. So if you go to that community, SeanSpicer.locals.com. And I wanted to do it here. Ron DeSantis chose Twitter. I chose Chris Stigall. But let me.
I think it's in that order. It's Elon Musk, and then right behind him, nipping at his heels.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I said to Musk, I said to Elon, listen, Elon, I appreciate the offer. But I'm just saying, within the Philadelphia and Missouri areas, key Missouri areas. But so let me get back to the nut of your question. I do think that look, I'm all for untraditional going around the media. I did it as White House press secretary. I think you mentioned President Trump and how he did it. And I think that the ecosystem has grown larger so that we don't need a lot of these folks the same way we might have, say, 4 or 8 years ago. That being said, I don't get doing an audio-only Twitter Spaces. It's not like he's live streaming something on Twitter. He's doing an audio-only moderated discussion. I think it's risky. I think it's segmented to a point where, if he did a live stream on Breitbart or the Daily Caller or Rumble, YouTube or so, I would get that. It's going around. It's directly getting a message out. But having a moderated discussion, audio-only, on a platform that a good chunk of voters, remember, a heavy chunk of Republican primary voters are a lot older. I don't know that they're going to, it's not just going on Twitter, it's going on to Twitter Spaces.
I don't think I knew that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't think I knew that. This is audio only. I thought it was a sit down video presentation, but you also make a point.
Right.
You make a great point in that while we talk a lot about Twitter, let's not forget the vast universe of voters, particularly Republican voters who skew older, have no idea of Twitter. They don't use it. They don't know it. They don't understand it. And they don't tend to learn.
Well, but all of that, but it's like, I didn't know what Twitter Spaces was and I still don't. I just know that it exists. And that's how there's going to be some kind of live thing on there. So does that mean that I logged into something? I'm not exactly the biggest tech person in the world, but I know I use Twitter a lot. I didn't know Twitter Spaces existed. And if you're having to explain to people how to find your announcement, that's generally speaking not a good place to be.
Interesting point, Sean Spicer. Interesting point. So let's get to what is the inevitable. It's been something I've been talking about all morning. I know you think deeply about it. And that is discussing these two men, because they both have fans and voters and supporters who believe the other guy is damaged goods, can't win, Trojan horse, yesterday's news, whatever you want to assign to both of them. I like both men. I'm fond of both men. You can't argue with their accomplishments, the both of them, while in office.
Right.
So I don't know how DeSantis talks about Trump. And I don't know how he courts Trump supporters, Trump loyal away. Can he do it successfully or no?
Well, I think to some extent, there's probably some people who, and you see this in just rhetoric that say, I like the president, I like his policies, I don't like what he said. The question is, are there enough of them? And I will tell you, I go back to my sports analogy on this. It's sort of like liking a team. But you have to like the team and say, okay, can our quarterback throw more than theirs? Do we have enough receivers that can catch the ball? And at the end of the day, it's all about the rules of the game. I put out a YouTube video the other day explaining the rules of the game. And the rules are, it's not winning a national popularity contest. It's winning the requisite number of delegates. And so when you look at how the delegates are won, right, there are 3 types of state. I won't bore your listeners. If you want, go to my YouTube page. Look at the video that I put out explaining the different type of delegate selection processes, winner take all, proportional or hybrid, what states have what and how those win. The system favors Trump right now because as the incumbent president in 2020, he helped reshape the field so that to avoid a primary challenge. Well, that system still benefits him as the current leader, meaning that he leads in every single state, even by a plurality. And if you have a winner take all state, you win by 1 vote, you get all those states' delegates. So if you go through the early analysis right now, the process favors him. And so you can like another candidate as much as you want. But at the end of the day, it's like being a fan of a team that just, doesn't have a good quarterback or a pitching team in baseball, or, a cadre of pitchers that at some point you can like them, but you have to acknowledge that they're probably not going to beat, an opposing team. Regardless of how much you like one over the other.
Do you have a relationship, and I don't mean to betray confidences, and you certainly wouldn't, I know, even if you did and can't, but do you have a relationship with the DeSantis folks? I mean, has anybody ever asked you, how do we navigate this world of Trump? Or if they had asked you, would you tell them, hey, just wait this thing out, let him have one more bite at the apple, and then you step up? I suspect they look at somebody like Chris Christie, who waited too long. And didn't get in at his apex, right? Is that the thinking here for DeSantis?
Yeah, and look, there's plenty of folks who I do know on that team, and some folks that have asked me my opinion. I'll share it with them, and I'll share it with you, which is, I think in terms of getting in, I've had a lot of folks. I actually did a video on this as well. Why won't there be a unified ticket or a unified team, Trump, DeSantis, or something like that? I explained that in another video that I put out last week on my YouTube page, because, and that's a whole separate, again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but the bottom line is DeSantis is going to do what he wants to do. You can't wait. He'd be a former governor if he waited another term. He won't have necessarily the list of accomplishments, and you just don't know where the political winds will be blowing and what candidate might be on the ascent. That being said, so he's not going to care about that. When I have been asked about could he win and what would the strategy be, I'll tell you what I've told them, which is this. If DeSantis has any chance of winning, he has to win at least one, if not two, and I think more likely two, of one of the 4 early states. So New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina, or Nevada. If he can't do that, then you head into Super Tuesday way behind in the early delegate count. I think donors, grassroots activists are starting to be questioning whether or not there's a path for you to go forward, because after you clear Super Tuesday, you head into almost all winner-take-all states where Trump has definitely got the advantage. So if you can't show donors and grassroots and conservative activists that you have a path, then I don't see them, that no one wants to be with a loser. And that's where I think you end up real quick. And so if Trump can rack up 4 quick wins, I think he puts this thing away pretty early heading into Super Tuesday. Conversely, I think if DeSantis or anybody else can show that they can take him down, it's sort of that old saying, if you're going to shoot the king, you better kill him. And a wound isn't going to work. So coming in a distant second or something like that, it's just not going to cut it. People who are rich generally don't want to blow their money, and conservative activists don't want to waste their time and energy putting up signs and making phone calls for somebody that's not looking like they have a path to victory.
Sean Spicer is with us, former White House press secretary, now host of his own venture, which I want to talk about in a minute. He's branching out on his own, going to launch a new show here very shortly, SeanSpicer.com. He's also over on Locals. He's got a brand new children's book out there called The Parrots Go Bananas. Sean, do you think then that if DeSantis can't pull this one off, does that make him a one-trick pony? Does that effectively hobble him forever if he's not able to overcome Trump this time?
Yeah, so let me go keep going with my sports analogies here. I think if you're going to get in the ring with him, and you can show that you kind of went 15 rounds, you lost, but you were in it, I think you got some potential for 2028, depending on how much damage is done and how bloodied you get. If he goes down there and falls on the mat in the second round hard, I think people are going to look elsewhere in 2028. And secondly, I think it would, theoretically, if Trump wins or loses, who is his VP nominee? What does that person then do? That would make them an automatic front runner for 2028 regardless.
Do you believe either of these men, Trump or DeSantis, still has a huge problem with the GOP as an organization, understanding how to collect early votes and win when it comes to, places like Pennsylvania voting 50 days before the general, and racking up hundreds of thousands, if not millions, come the general election of votes before Election Day? Has the GOP figured that out?
Well, it's an interesting question that you're asking, Chris, because I think that, when someone says, does the party get this or does the GOP get this? It's amorphous. It's like saying, do men get this or do women get this? The party is not this amorphous structure. It's me and you and a million other people. And then it goes down to states. And so do people in Pennsylvania get this? Do people in Washington County out west get it? The answer is it's going to depend on the state. In Florida, they've got voting down pretty well. In a lot of states that have been doing mail-in votes out west in particular, in Washington State, this is the only way they know to vote. I think the question is, are Republicans in a lot of states that have been traditionally, since post-COVID, willing to adapt? And that's the key, is that, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we lost the battle on this. Yep. Democrats played the game better, they won, and now we have to adapt and bank those votes and play by their rules, because if we don't, we're going to have a continuous perpetual cycle of losing. So, and I don't like it. I'm an election day voter myself. I think that absentee ballots for those who were sick or affirmed or away on military leave or whatever could utilize that. There was no need for what we is, but we lost the battle. And so now we have to embrace the new set of rules.
Sean, the Trump campaign is undoubtedly going to, continue to pummel DeSantis. DeSantis responds how, if you're to counsel them? I've said that I don't think DeSantis can win, just like we saw Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio try to go toe-to-toe with Trump on the insult game. Nobody can take him on that. Whether you like him doing that or not, nobody can take him at that game. So how does DeSantis play that, do you think? Does he just stay above the fray? Does he defer to him, compliment him where appropriate? What would you say?
Well, I think it depends on the attack. Because they each one matters. I mean, when Trump went after DeSantis on the 6-week bill, that's something that I think a lot of conservatives would support. And so DeSantis would be right to go back and say, well, I'm proud to have done this. And the context is going to matter. But I think in general, it's staying above the fray, talking about, your win, the ability to expand. I mean, DeSantis won Miami in his last election. He did very well with Hispanics through the I-4 corridor, talking about having a conservative agenda, being straight on your principles and still winning and expanding, which is something that I think, I would be very proud of. He's done very well on the Second Amendment. He fought hard for union rights. He's been an ardent supporter of life. I mean, so he's got a very strong conservative record. And if I were him, I would just start going toe-to-toe record-wise, saying, all right, look, here's what I've done. And, oh, by the way, here's how I think I can expand that. I might not try to trade barbs the way that Rubio or Cruz did with insults. I don't think you're going to do that. You're not going to outdo him on that. But you might want to try to go remind people that you can get the same, policies, but with less of a greater ability to expand the base and win bigger.
Two more messaging angles, and then I want to talk about your new project, Sean. And that is, here are two things that I hear in this audience. A lot of Trump people feel like I don't know where it comes from. Sincerely, I don't. I haven't investigated it. I'm not saying it's my opinion. I just hear people, they tweet at me, they say they believe for whatever reason that Ron DeSantis is establishment. He's cozy with the Bush people. That there's something establishment-y about him. Does he? Does he have to answer to that? Are there Trump people that are just ride or die with Trump, and he can never peel them off? So don't bother even engaging on that front. I don't know how you win over some of these hardened Trump folks, or if you can at all. Or is that even a fair criticism?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it's a fair criticism in the sense that some of these folks, to your point, are ride or die. I don't know that you're ever going to win them. It's like trying to win over a family member.
Yeah.
So but that's his problem. He's got a math issue. Trying to figure out, as I said, how to get enough voters in the early states to rack up some delegates. That's the challenge. I mean, winning over all of them doesn't matter, but you're talking about, trying to score a victory in Iowa or New Hampshire. This isn't Texas or California.
Yeah.
So you just need to find enough folks that can caucus or vote in a primary in those two early states in particular to start to make a difference. And the beautiful thing is they're not that big. So ID them, figure out, is there enough of them, and go from there.
Here's what they say about Trump. DeSantis people say Trump cannot win. He is hated. Everyone knows exactly who he is and how they feel about him. He will never win women again. He cannot win. There is no path. Sean Spicer says what?
It's just simply not true. You saw two polls recently, one from the Washington Post, ABC. Then yesterday, a Harvard poll. I tweeted it out. He's up by 7 over Biden. Now, we don't win nationally, but you start pulling out, a lead of that magnitude at a national level, and it's going to translate into at least, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I mean, you just have to pick up enough electoral votes and you're back in the thing. So that argument is just not true. Mathematically, that he may be polarized. He may not be able to win big, but I mean, the math is there.
So you're not prepared. You would never agree with the statement he can't win. There is no math for him to win, no path to beat Biden in the general.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, both of them. I mean, heck, Chris, I mean, look, I don't mean that. I think either one of them, yes, but I also don't think that, considering the state of our economy, what's happening overseas, et cetera, and frankly, his just, mental liquidity that this is going to be the toughest race in the world. I think there are probably, this isn't going to be a can so-and-so beat. It's who can't beat him.
There are people that don't believe Biden's ultimately the guy. I mean, there are people floating around, Michelle Obama jumps in or some surprise 11th hour candidate emerges.
Can I tell you my theory on this, by the way?
Please.
Here's the thing. First of all, Michelle Obama will never be a candidate. And anybody who thinks that it just doesn't understand the system. She doesn't want to be a candidate. She's never liked the thing. And then just in terms of there are enough people that would not let it happen. So just I think people who see, and I hear all sorts of political people talk about this, it's not going to happen. That's number one. Number two, I believe if there's really a path forward, it's that Biden believes in his heart. And I believe that he is the only one who can take on Trump. He believes that. He believes that he did it last time. And that, that all of these people who told him not to do anything when Hillary lost, he should have run, and therefore he did it, and he won, and blah, blah, blah. But my theory of the case is this. He runs and he under the guise of, I think I can pull this off again. And then, a year in steps down or, is removed or something under the 25th. But I believe that if you really are worried about something, it would be Kamala Harris ascending to the presidency through a non-electoral means.
Oh, after the fact. Okay. So, Sean, before we let you go, congratulations on the new project. I think this is perfect timing.
Thank you.
This seems to be where everybody's trending. People branching out on their own and doing their own thing. And this analysis is exactly why this is the perfect time for you. A year in advance of going into the election, now you can kind of do this your way. I assume that was your thinking in launching your new project.
It is, exactly. Is that I'm not constrained by, a time slot or a time. I mean, if I think that the material of a given day is 57 minutes long or an hour and 10 minutes long, I can do that if I think it's 32 minutes long. And so I've teamed with this production company to develop the show that will launch, I said, in about a month and a half. I'm asking people to go to seanspicer.locals.com to help give me input as to what they want to see as we design it, build it, and name it, frankly. But it's been under the wraps. We've been putting out videos on YouTube every day and on Rumble to try to, engage with folks on different topics and see what they think. And so, but to your point, this is where things are moving. I mean, you look at Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Glenn Beck, Dan Bongino, Megyn Kelly. I mean, this is where the new conservative movement is headed. Cable is dying. It's just a fact. More and more people are cutting cords, becoming disenchanted with their offerings on there and looking at the price and saying, I don't want to do that. So this is a way that that you can offer content in a way that people can grab it where they want, when they want. And I think for me, heading into an election year where, in terms of being able to do analysis, I've got, I think, a lot to offer, in particular insight that just very few people, if any, have. So I didn't want to be constrained by, a network's time slot.
SeanSpicer.locals.com is where you can go. YouTube, he's there now. You can follow him on Twitter. I can't wait to see what you end up doing. I'm thrilled. First of all, I really appreciate you being here today to give us this analysis. This is the kind of stuff that, you're not emotional about it. What I really appreciate about you is you really genuinely kind of surgically look at it. And I think you look at it from an honest place, not an emotional rah-rah place, but you actually do the math and the hard data, which is invaluable right now because people are very emotional. People are scared for the future of the country. They want to win. Everybody wants to win and defeat this mess. But there's some really hardened positions about how to get that done. And I really appreciate the fact that you don't get terribly whipped up and emotional about it. You're pretty analytical at all times.
Well, I appreciate your kind analysis here. But I think what matters is, and part of the reason, again, is because if you understand the rules and the process, then you can make the change that you want in a way that's actually going to occur. There are people who will say, well, I want so-and-so. That's great. It's like, I want to buy, a Ferrari. Well, if you don't have the money and you don't have a plan to get it, then that's all you're ever going to do is want it. And what I'm trying to do is give people the tools to say, okay, here's how you could actually maybe create a plan to buy it. And that's what I think people have to understand when talk comes to politics, is that if you want a particular candidate to win, or you don't like something, then understand how you can engage in the process effectively. And understanding the rules are key to that.
SeanSpicer.locals.com, the new project coming in just about a month. I can't wait to have you back when you launch, my friend. Thank you for the announcement today. Great to hear from you. Okay, let me tell you, MyPillow has been absolutely outstanding to sleep on these last few weeks. The new MyPillow 2.0, I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I sleep like a baby. Between the Giza Dream Sheets I'm sleeping on, the MyPillow body pillow that I keep tucked in between my knees and on my arm every night, between that and the MyPillow 2.0, this brilliant new pillow with the heat-dissipating fabric that keeps the pillow smooth and cool to the touch the whole night, tremendous. I love it. Even Dean now loves his MyPillow dog bed so much, he spends most of his time sleeping on it in the office. You go to MyPillow.com today, and you use my name, Chris Podcast. That's the promo code, Chris Podcast. When you do that, you save up to 66% on everything on the website, whether it's the slippers or the towels or the pillows or the anything. But on the pillow specifically, the MyPillow 2.0, you'll get a free MyPillow 2.0 when you order one if you use my name, Chris Podcast, as the promo code. So you can call them, you can go online. Either way, use the name Chris Podcast, and know this, that everything you buy at MyPillow.com comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. These are American-made products, every bit of it, American-made. And they are proud of what they stand behind as a product, and I can tell you they're really well-made quality products. So look, are they the cheapest products? Of course they're not. People get mad sometimes because they think the price point is a little higher. I understand. I mean, like, no pressure. I'm not telling you got to go buy it, but I'm just telling you, you get what you pay for. So MyPillow products are really high quality, and they're made here in the country, and they're guaranteed to last. So, you know, you can buy something cheaper that'll fall apart on you, and you'll have to buy it again and spend equal amounts of money, or buy a really quality American-made product right now at MyPillow.com and save using my name, Chris Podcast, or call MyPillow today if you'd rather. 800-932-5056. 800-932-5056.
The Chris Stigall Show Podcast.